Hello, 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 everyone. It's Mary Kay here from the Living Room Community Art Studio with another live stream Tuesday Artist Chat. So happy to be here. Oh, hello. Oh, hi. Oh, it's so great to see folks joining in. That's lovely. We've been away for a couple of weeks. I haven't actually been away, just taken a break from live streaming, but I'm super happy to be back. Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, just to let folks know, when they send us a request to join, that means they're featured as a part of the video. Today, during these live stream chats, we try to focus on one person at a time, although I do have plans in the future to try to do some kind of ongoing show and tell, maybe switching up community members every 5 minutes. I'll keep you posted about that because I know there's a lot of folks out there who'd love to say hi, and I know there's a lot of folks who'd like to see your face, whoever you might be. So keep tuned for that. Today we are chatting with someone who was a regular in the studio space when we still had the studio space. Recently closed it, as most of you have probably heard by now. This was someone who I met, I guess, in the last couple of years. Fantastic, funny, extraordinarily warm and charming human being, Eric Firth, also known as Bear Claw Crafts 1 here on Instagram. In the next couple of months, leading up to the festive season, whatever festive season you celebrate, I'd like to, as much as possible, focus on celebrating people who make things and sell things in the community, because as many of you know, it's around about that time where we'd be getting ready for our annual Handmade with Heart marketplace. Obviously, we can't do that this year because of, global pandemic. But we do want to shine a light on a lot of the people who might regularly be vending with us, or people who might even be vending with us for the first time. And since we can't do that in person, we're going to do that virtually. So today, I'm inviting Eric on to chat to learn a little bit more about what Eric does, who he is, and why he loves making what he makes. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, let's invite Eric on. Let's see if I can do this. Can I still remember after a couple of Can I still remember? Let's see if I can click on Eric there. Oh, did you miss this, folks? Did you miss me futzing about with technology? Yeah? Eric, if you're out there, and I see you are out there, send me an invite. Or ask to join live video. Oh, come on. Come on. I'm talking to my phone, folks. That's what I'm talking to right now. Yeah. This is a normal conversation between me and technology. Hello, hello, everyone. Ah, so great. Thanks for joining in. Now, come on. Now, Eric, if you're out there, can you send me a request to join the live stream? I see you laughing with your emoji, Eric. Yes, I know. There we go. Let's go on Bear Claw Crafts. Oh, technology. How you make our lives simpler. Hello. Did you enjoy that? How?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's me and technology. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, it's so
Got
good.
myself all nice and prepped for the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to see what you're going to share with us today. For folks who might not be familiar with you or your work, would you like to introduce yourself and let people know who you are?
Okay. Well, I'm Eric, and I like bouncing around and doing different art styles, and especially when I was at the studio, I got to see different things and learn different things.
Mm.
Right now, I'm mostly been known for wood burning and then painting whatever art I've made by wood burning.
Yeah, and there's some beautiful, beautiful stuff. Even
Oh yeah.
in the 8 months or 7 or 8 months since we've been closed, looking at your work and tracking what you've been doing on Instagram, it's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you. And there's a bunch of stuff I've been too lazy to post, so I'm going to try and start doing that more often.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
So I know as someone who sells their work in community, you've not had an opportunity to be a part of the Handmade with Heart marketplace or anything like that. Where do
Nope.
you normally share your work?
Most of the time I'm at native powwows in Toronto or the near areas, And I've been slowly getting into doing comic conventions. And actually, I was supposed to table at one, but then COVID got in the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
But
that's
they sent me my money back, so I didn't lose any money.
well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, so let's take a step back then and learn a little bit more about what your creative journey has been like. Because I know your wood burning, your painting, the different things you do are heavily influenced by, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem to be heavily influenced by comic culture, uh, pop culture as far as music, a lot of kind of retro references to classic icons within the music industry. What drew you to capturing that kind of subject matter?
Well, for me, it's whenever I do something like art-wise, I always want the first one I do to be something I like,
Hmm.
because then I take my time and I learn how to do it properly
Yeah.
instead of just trying to rush a random design. And comics is a big thing in my life. I'm surrounded by them. I know a bunch of comic artists. I volunteer at the shows, so it's really part of my life.
Hmm.
And then music, it was a lot of my music taste is from my dad, so that's how we connect is through music and the joys of it. So that also is what helps inspire me to pick certain bands to do artwork for.
So this is something very personal to you.
Yeah, the first plaque I made for wood burning a musician was a birthday gift for my dad.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it was because one of our favorite singers and bands is Motorhead, and Lemmy Kilmister passed away a few years ago, and he's
Mm,
the lead singer. So for my dad's birthday, I ended up making a Motorhead with Lemmy Kilmister on it as his birthday gift.
that's
I
awesome.
think uh, I think I posted that one on Instagram.
Yeah. Well, for folks out there, you can follow Eric's work on Bear Claw Crafts One, and yeah, it's really lovely to see you growing as a creator. When did you first know that you were a creative person? When did that occur to you?
Uh, I think I've always been creative. It's just recently that I've gone back into being creative. My mom told me a story that I was in kindergarten and I got in trouble for coloring an elephant as a rainbow instead of gray.
Hmm.
And like my mom flipped out on the teacher saying like, how could you do that? He's a kid.
Good.
But so I could see it being when I was very young.
And you said you kind of got away from it for a little while.
I just wasn't really interested because when I was younger, it was like coloring in pages or doing little doodles in like my workbooks and that. And then just through friends that they showed me how to do one method, and then I learned another method, and then I just kept learning new things. Like I started working with resin. That's because resin videos started popping up on Facebook and YouTube. So I just started watching it, and I'm like, oh, I want to play with that. A lot of the time, it's me just seeing something like, cool, I want to do that because it looks fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best way to dive into something creative. If it
Oh
feels,
yeah,
for me, like if it feels like work or if I'm giving myself an assignment, a task, I'm not going to
yeah.
with it. Yeah.
No.
And so when you're learning from friends, I'm imagining that some things also come from you. Was wood burning something that you were introduced to through your friends, or was that something you were already familiar with?
Yeah, it was something I was familiar with because the first time I actually wood burnt was I was in the Boy Scouts and we had to make these little foldable stools.
Yeah.
And then our scouters told us paint them so they look different from your friends so you don't take his stool and he doesn't take yours. And my mom said, why don't you wood burn it? I'm like, what? And she gave me the tools and I did various music logos on there. I had like Rob Zombie, Nickelback, Sick Puppies, like the stuff I was listening to in elementary.
Yeah.
And then I had little pictures of the boys from South Park because that was a funny show when I was younger.
Yeah.
And on the top where you would sit, it's the big Mortal Kombat logo.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
So I think I may have been like 13 when I did that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're 13 and you're wood burning at that time.
Oh yeah. Just growing up, we were always a creative family, or we would always use our hands to make stuff or build. Like, I remember being in my teens and I would be working with my uncle doing little construction jobs at his place, or when I was older, I would go to a farm with him and do construction there.
Mhm.
So it's like I'd always be using my hands.
And that's something really creative as well. I think when we talk about this, we used to talk about this at the studio all the time, that kind of the separation, the false separation that's put between the world of fine art, the kind of stuff you might
Yeah,
see in history, and then the kind of creativity that we use every day of our lives, whether we're repairing something or building something or, just making something a part of our lives in a meaningful way. Sounds like that was always a part of your family's life as well.
yeah. My mom likes to tell it at POWs, but my grandmother had arthritis, so at one point she couldn't hold a broom.
Mhm.
So she kind of taught her kids to always use your hands because you don't know how long you'll have them.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty profound.
yeah. So that's kind of been ingrained, well, without knowing, because I didn't know that story maybe till about 8 years ago.
And how did that story come up for you and your family?
No, I just think I overheard my mom saying that at a powwow to someone else
Yeah.
because I always knew my grandma had like health problems and arthritis, but I never heard that little part about always use your hands.
Hmm. Always appreciate that while you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And your mom is creative as well. Your mom, I remember once you telling me that your mom creates stuff and sells her own creations as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, uh, a what got me into really like making stuff and then trying to sell it is because I would help my mom make dream catchers to sell at her booth.
Hmm.
And then eventually I started doing paintings, so she let me have a little square on the table to put my stuff. And now at events, I get a whole table at her booth for my stuff.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I love that so much.
Yeah.
What is the response from I imagine, well, I don't know actually. Why don't I just ask the question, Eric? What is the response to your work when you share it?
A lot of the times well, actually, most of the times people are impressed, blown away, and they're all positive. I've yet to get something negative.
Hmm.
And some friends kind of tell me, uh, give me help about color choices and such too. Like after I've done something, they're like, looks great, but you may want to do this a little differently. So then next time I do it, I end up tweaking it a bit.
Yeah. Can we see some of the stuff that you've been working on?
Sure. So there's one or two pieces I finished last night as a commission for a coworker of mine. So, right.
So you see
And
folks
then,
emerging already. Yes.
and then,
Oh, cool.
so yeah. So I'll be giving those to my coworker today.
And can you talk a little bit about what it's like, the community comic culture,
Can,
things like that?
can you ask that again? You cut out like three, four times.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Um, we're already like in the reference to that piece. It's definitely influenced by comic culture, by that world. Why is it that you think you found such a response from people in that community to your work?
Uh, well, a lot of my work I do it because I want to do it and it's fun, so it's going to be a lot of comic based. And then I remember I was stumped for ideas, so I asked a bunch of friends, and they gave me characters I had no clue about. I still have no clue about them, but I looked through pictures and found like there's the basic little drawing of them, and then there's a funny looking one. I'm like, I want to do the funny one because I always see like the popular like superhero pose, but I ended up finding one throwing a pumpkin in the air.
Hmm.
And I thought that looks funny, and I did that one.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Why do you think you're so drawn to comic culture and that kind of storytelling?
just because it varies. Like all the books I read, some of them are easy, little goofy, dumb books. Like I read a book called Chainsaw Reindeer. It's one issue, and it's this reindeer that goes crazy and kills. And then I'm reading another one, and it was unnatural, and that was really neat because there's all these issues in the book that you can relate to in the um in our world, because the book, all the characters are anthropomorphic animals instead of human beings. And it's really interesting how you can get these really fun, simple books, and then you can find really fun, complex comics
Mm.
that deal with big issues.
I think sometimes comic culture, the community gets a bad rap. It's kind of there's an assumption that it's simple, that it's foolish, that it's childlike,
Yeah,
because the aesthetic might be different than something you'd see in fine art. But you're like, there's so much more there. There's something there for everyone as well. That's one of the things
yeah,
I speaks to something. Uh, I think it can speak to everyone, but at the same time, I mean, I find solace there because of that outsider feeling, the feeling that they pay like special attention to those who are on the margins, those who maybe haven't had or haven't heard a voice that reminds them of their own.
yeah.
When you're at Comic Con, do you find yourself drawn to any specific kind of creator there or any specific kind of story?
Uh, Usually when I volunteer at Comic Con, I'm in the uh, artist alley, so that's where all the comic book artists, like the professional ones, and then all the independent guys and gals that want to become the professionals are there. So it's really neat because I meet up and coming stars, established people, and then people just working their way up.
Yeah.
And it's really neat. There's one artist, I spoke to her because I had to table sit someone next to her, had a good conversation, and then now I see she's doing covers for some of the goofy comics I like to read. So I'm like, I have to get those now.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's really neat because it's just talking, and it's almost like a big family. Once you start getting to know people, it's like a family reunion.
Do you find it like an easier community to engage with than other like other artistic communities that are out there?
Uh, I suppose, yeah, because it's just so varied in such a small space
Mm.
that you can always find someone that appeals to you. Because there's a lot of artists that do digital, a lot of artists that paint their work or sketch it out and then do it digital.
Mm-hmm.
So it just varies on different art styles. One artist, I got their book through a Kickstarter. All of her comic panels in the book are watercolored. So she would draw it and then paint it with watercolors. So it's a whole watercolored comic.
That sounds beautiful. Oh, you
Oh, it
send me the link to
send
that.
you pictures?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
the question I have too is because when it comes to being inspired, when you're inspired by pop culture and doing like something that could be, I suppose, referred to as fan art in the sense that uh,
Yeah,
it's recreating something that you love that someone else has done. Where do you draw
yeah.
the line? Where do you make it your own, and so that you're not just taking what they've given you?
Uh, well, with certain characters, it's like I find a very simple version of it, and I'll do that. But then it's really how I paint the background or how I do all that work that I create it my own.
Mm-hmm.
And one artist, again, another Kickstarter I did, I loved it. It was a coloring book, so I scanned one of the pictures and then I colored it in my way by wood burning and painting it, and then I did a little layer of resin over it, and I sent her a picture just saying like, I
Yeah,
love your work and this is what I did with it, and she was really happy and impressed with it.
that's amazing. So you're getting responses from the artists that inspire you in return.
Yeah,
That,
yeah, it's neat because some days it throws me off to see like an artist I really like and they liked a picture of mine.
yeah. And Art of Gold, I'm seeing, wants to know who that the watercolor comic book artist is as well. So maybe we'll post it afterwards, or you can share something on your page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll put it I'll post it on my story of that one artist.
that's amazing. Thank you. Do you ever have people, or have you ever considered creating your own work? If you, yeah, have you ever considered just like creating something originally completely by Eric?
Uh, Not so much with the wood burning yet, but when I was doing melted crayon and acrylic pours, that's pretty much guaranteed original because
Yeah.
there's no way to replicate it.
Yeah.
And then once I've done the acrylic pour, I may paint over it, and depending on the way it moves and the designs, I remember doing an acrylic pour with like a green, purple, and black all swirled around, and then I painted uh, a wolf and then the moon on the top corner as if the wolf's howling to the moon.
That did I think I might have seen that at the studio. Did I?
Uh, Maybe. I
Yeah.
did sell it, so I don't have it anymore.
No, that's good. That's, I mean, that's
Yeah,
what everyone wants, to sell their work. And that's,
yeah,
that's beautiful. And you do other things as well. I should explain to folks too, at least from the work that I've seen, it's not exclusively inspired by comics. Like you were saying, you've experimented with mixed mediums and acrylic pours. I think I found you a lovely gift for the studio, a little unicorn encased
Oh,
in
did
resin.
you keep it?
And it started melting a little bit. I'm not sure. I know it was an experimental piece, so I'm not sure what you're
Yeah,
having, but it was actually stuck to the shelves that I had it displayed on.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I When I work with resin, I make sure to put a layer of plastic now down on my table so I don't have a sticky table a month later.
Well, I know that you also at the studio had to start leaving signs saying, "Mary, do not touch this," because I
Yes.
interfering
Yes.
that weren't quite dry yet. Just me,
Yep.
no one else. I don't
Yep.
know.
Well, no, I think I put please don't touch and then in brackets, especially you, Mary. So it was for everyone, but a very big reminder for someone.
I, yeah, there's so much I miss about seeing people's work in the studio. But when I get to see what you're doing through Instagram, it makes me happy. And it sounds like recently, like I know you've always done commissions. Uh,
Yeah.
are you still taking commissions right now in the lead up to the holidays, for example? If someone wanted you to wood burn and paint something for them, do you think you would be able to do it?
Yeah, we would have to do a good back and forth to figure out what they wanted and what I could do,
Yeah.
and uh, and then also figure out a good time frame. And then also, are we going to meet up uh, in the Durham area, or am I going to have to mail it to the person? Because if we meet up, of course, that'll be cheaper than me having to mail it to someone.
Do you enjoy that
But
process, meeting up with clients after you've, or
yeah, because I like seeing people's reactions to what I've done. Or I remember I dropped off some art for your Halloween event
yeah.
uh, previous year, and then the next time I went in the studio, someone who bought it, you pointed out, oh, Eric was the one that made it, and we had a conversation about it. So it was really nice. That's what I think I like most about dealing face to face is just talking and interacting with people.
Hmm. Is that something that you think you learned from comic culture or?
Uh, Actually, I learned that doing the powwows with my mom because I've been doing those since I was 11.
Mhm.
And then I've been going to comic conventions as a fan for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
So I was doing powwows long before comics.
And this might be a strange question, but for a lot of folks like me who've maybe not been exposed to it, can you, in brief, explain what a powwow is to folks who may not have attended one before?
Powwow, it's a big social gathering. Everyone's welcome to go. And it's just native culture. There's usually an MC that will announce the type of dance that will be taking place in this big circle, and he'll explain what a grass dance is and the why we would do that. And then also certain dances are sacred, so he'll announce not to take any pictures at this moment. And then so there's a big circle, and that's where the dances are in. And then there's a little circle, and that's where the drum is. And there's drummers in there doing the drumming
Mhm.
and singing. And then outside of that, there's vendors' booths, so native vendors, traditional crafts, dream catchers, medicine bags, a lot of native crafts, and then there are people that bring in their own crafts and their own style. Like my mom, she does teepee banks, so they're little piggy banks that look like teepees. So it's really neat.
And the only reason I ask is because sometimes we talk about stuff um, kind of like without realizing. And it was only a few years ago that I realized I didn't know that anyone and everyone was welcome at,
Yeah,
unless like exclusively explained.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's a common thing that a lot of folks believe that they shouldn't or they can't go when it sounds like such a fast
Oh,
community.
I want to say at least 5 people every powwow I've been to have asked, "Are we allowed in?" or "I didn't know I could come in."
Yeah.
But no, it's a gathering, and if you want to come in, you can.
Yeah.
And if you don't know any of the rules or the guidelines, you just got to listen in to the MC. Or if you don't hear that, you can feel free to ask someone.
Yeah. It does sound like an incredible social experience.
Oh yeah,
And I imagine for the
and
people
like
coming together to sell their wares, that must be
yeah,
super fun too.
and like the regalia that our dancers wear is just stunning.
Yeah.
All the detail on that. My favorite is a rain dress because there's these little tin cones, and when they walk, it sounds like rain. So it's really neat.
Sounds beautiful. Have you ever considered incorporating some of those references into the work you do?
Uh, Not yet.
Hmm.
The closest I get to really incorporating anything native would either be the 4 colors or just animals from the different clans.
And is that where I've realized over time, I've never actually asked you this. Where does Bear Claw Crafts come from, the name that you've given yourself? Maybe it has nothing to do with any of that. I don't know.
Uh, well, so bear claws, when I was in high school, my dad gave me a bear claw necklace, so I always wear it. So it's the one right here.
Yeah.
I think I was in grade 9 when I got that. So that was 2009. So I've worn this for 11 years now.
Wow.
And where I got Bear Claw was from Comic-Con. There's a specific cosplayer I knew, and we'd always talk. And one day I was telling her I was at my dojo, and these little kids were talking to me, and one of them grabbed my bear claw and started jabbing me in the neck with it,
Yeah.
right, to see how sharp it was. And I was like, "Thanks, buddy." But yeah, so from that day on, she called me Bear Claw whenever she saw me. So that's where Bear Claw came from. And then I worked at the Mandarin, and a few employees called me that. And once I decided that I wanted to create my own like Instagram or brand for my stuff, Bear Claw just felt fitting.
Fair enough. I like it. And now I know. Thank you.
Yeah. And the crafts is because I do all the crafts. And it's Bear Claw Crafts 1 because I had the Bear Claw Crafts Instagram page, but I could never recover the password. So then I became Bear Claw Crafts 1 because I had to restart that.
There's so many. This is such a funny thing. There are so many artists and makers out there who have that exact same story. We all started Instagram pages when we knew we wanted to have one for our creative
Yeah.
work. Forget the password, somehow get locked out. Have to
Yep.
start.
And I think like the first 6 pictures in this account,
Yeah.
I just took those from the original account and reposted them again.
Well, why not? They're yours. So
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah.
So if this is exciting. I know you do other things as well. As I was saying, the motifs aren't necessarily all related to the things you love with comic culture. There are a lot of natural things that emerge as well. I think I shared uh, in the post I made one of my favorites, which was kind of a stained glass inspired bear.
Yeah, I was trying to hunt that down before the video, but I can't find it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I saw you post that. I'm like, I should find that. And no, I don't know where it is.
Well, I know you're also a very generous artist. There's never been a time where
Yeah.
you've, at least when I've seen you in the studio, you gift so much of your art as well, which is another lovely thing
Oh,
to do. Do you
yeah.
find, what do you love about sharing art with other people?
Uh, I kind of like it when they're like, "Oh, you did? thank you. Like they're shocked that I'm giving them something without asking for anything in return.
Mm,
And it's just, I do that because they show appreciation to my work and I'd like to thank them.
mm.
And it's just something nice to do anyway.
It's a beautiful thing. And you are like such an incredible human being. Always a pleasure to have around at the studio. You're one of those people that changes the energy in a room as soon as you enter it in a positive way, I
Yeah.
should say. How has this time been for you? Like every artist I chat with, we check in around this because these aren't normal times. Uh,
Yeah.
what have
Well,
you?
well, just with my mental health, I have my bad days and my good days. My good days are more than bad, so that's good. And really, when I have a bad day, I just truck on with it. I go to work, finish my shift, and talk to either my coworkers or people online, and that shifts my mood into something better. So that's been kind of how I've been dealing with it. Also, I end up reading or playing video games to help me with stress relief, or even I just focus and I do a bunch of art in my basement.
Have things, has the pandemic or the way life has changed for so many people changed the way that you make art?
Uh, sort of, instead of going to a studio, I'm in my basement.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. But yeah, no, besides that, none of my art has really changed, like the process. Uh, besides going outside and using spray paint, it's the same thing, just indoors under some light and doing my art.
Yeah. Have you discovered anything about yourself during this time, creatively speaking, about what you're drawn to, or perhaps new things that you want to try that you haven't tried before?
Well, yeah, because of the pandemic, I've been playing on YouTube and Facebook, so I ended up watching resin videos, so I'm more interested in playing with resin. And I've actually started making pieces with resin, and I've dropped a bunch of stuff off at a comic shop and a movie store to try and sell some of my stuff.
Excellent. So I wanted to ask you about that as well. So if you're someone, perhaps you don't want to commission, but someone who wants to look at your work or purchase it, where can we go to find it?
Uh, so the comic shop is in Oshawa. It's Worlds Collide, and I dropped off 19 of these little coffins I've made, little nerdy coffins. And then in Toronto, there's Eyesore Movies, and I dropped off a bunch of movie-themed coffins at their place.
That's fun. And did I see, were you, or are you still selling stuff at, what is it? Is it Dead Dog Records? Is that,
Yes, they still have a bunch of my music plaques.
okay,
So they have a nice little setup of my plaques over the cash register. So
okay.
that's good.
Because the,
And they have two locations in Toronto, so my art is split between the two stores.
that's awesome. And when was that shift for you when you knew you were creating stuff and then you said, you know what, I want to try selling stuff in other locations? What was that process like?
Uh, well, I knew I wanted to try the comic shop in Oshawa, but it was really my dad because he's the one that has the contacts with those three stores because
Mm.
he goes there so much. So when I did the Motorhead plaque for him, my whole idea was to make these plaques and sell them at shows, and he was like, let me send this to Dead Dog and see what they think. And they liked it, so I made a bunch of plaques for them. And then for like the coffins, my dad was like, he'll want to sell these, so we brought a bunch of coffins, and Buddy's like, oh yeah, I'll do that.
Brilliant. So we'll share the links to those shops afterwards as well, so folks can learn where they find your work. And this is a big conversation actually that comes up, especially with artists who aren't like their training comes through other ways. You didn't go to
Yeah.
art school, you didn't learn how to promote yourself or network or do any of those things that, you know, those kind of schools might teach you how to do, maybe.
Hmm.
Uh, the idea of putting your work out there into the world can be terrifying for some people.
Yeah.
Was that ever a part of your process, or do you just thought, yeah, I'm going to do this?
Uh, really, most of it just comes from other people saying, Eric, you should do this. Like, I made a dream catcher for a friend, and it was like Harley Quinn inspired. So half of it
Yeah.
was black, half of it was red. It had the diamonds, right? So it was really neat. And I was at a comic convention and I showed my buddy, I'm like, check what I did. And he looked at it and he's like, you should start selling it. So I think I made 10 comic themed dream catchers and I tried selling those at shows. And that was pretty good, like
Yeah.
at powwows.
So listening to the feedback wasn't, it was, you were able, how were you able to do that? How were you able to actually take what they said and run with it?
Well, I had already made like that dream catcher, so really they were like, well, you should make more. These would sell. So
Yeah.
then I thought of some superheroes I liked, and I drew out a little design on how the leather should look and what paints I should use to make that character.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then because I had already been doing powwows with my mom, so it's literally just me putting some dream catchers up as if I was doing it normally
Hmm.
and selling it. Because I've been doing sales since I was 11, so it's kind of normal for me to talk to people and get to know them, kind of push them towards some of the stuff I want to sell,
Yeah.
but not being invasive.
That is a really interesting skill set to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting thing to learn, just to give yourself permission to be okay with being appreciated. I know there's a lot of
Yeah.
artists there who have a very hard time accepting compliments about their work.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting relationship. And I also experience this, so it's not like I'm immune. It can be so hard to trust that people's feedback is honest.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are maybe considering taking that leap, taking something that they've been making purely for their own enjoyment? What would you recommend to them about getting their work out there into the world?
Uh, well, it's going to sound a little cynical, but nothing's guaranteed. I've brought my stuff to a bunch of shows and I never sold a single thing of mine.
Mm.
And then just one show, I was just selling left and right. So you're not guaranteed to sell, but just keep in mind there will be a show that you will sell and it'll be great. Like I dropped off those coffins and then within a week I went back to the store and they hadn't sold a single one. And I'm like, all right, next time I go, I'll see.
Yeah.
So don't go expecting to sell everything. Just go to have fun. If I can make the cost of my table back, I'm happy. So
Yeah.
if I spent $50 for a table and I made $50, I got a fun day and I got my money back.
That's, I'm thinking like when we've had the marketplaces in the past, the handmade with hearts that we've done, there always seems to be the people who enjoy themselves the most there aren't
Hmm.
the people who sell everything they have. They're people who
No.
come in with this open heart to the experience and they enjoy meeting people, talking with people, uh, celebrating their work, even if they don't sell it. And I myself,
Yeah.
as a vet, like as a person who buys things, because I know I can go back to them in the future to purchase things if I don't on that day.
Yeah.
I love that. What do you recommend during these times, though? Because people can't get out. I'm not sure. Are powwows still? Are you still able to gather?
No. No, just because it's the social distancing.
Yeah.
So a lot of powwows are canceled, which is good and safe.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, if you have an Instagram page, just post that contact to sell or I'll do commissions kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone posts, like you make a post and someone's like, oh my God, I love that. How much? Just message them and let them like private message them and be like, oh yeah, it's this much.
Yeah.
And see if you can work it out that way too.
Yeah. It's still relationship building, isn't it? It's still
Yep.
community, just through a different platform.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I encourage everyone to get out there and visit Bear Claw Crafts Web. Oh,
There you go.
some more coffee.
I know, a mouthful.
Mm. Now, something that we chat about with every guest as well is just about self-care and art making. For you, I don't even know, does self-care, is the creative process a part of your self-care, or is it something different?
Yeah, it can be helpful,
Mm.
but just don't give yourself a big workload, right? Because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. So one day I just may do nothing but burning, and I'll burn five, 10 pieces, and then I'll rest for 2 days and not work on any art. Or I just may have the energy and I'll do those 10 pieces one day, paint them off the next day kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just if you start an art piece, you don't have to finish it the same day. And a lot of my art, I've started art pieces, I've stopped, and then I started working on other ones. And I may complete that second one and then come back to that first one another day.
It's such an important thing to remember. Why do so many artists forget about that? That we're the boss,
Yeah.
that we don't have to finish it. Why do you think that is? Why do we push ourselves so hard?
I think people just get determined to like, I started this, I will finish this.
Mm.
I have a little bin, and I think I may have 15 little plaques that I've only burnt. I haven't even painted them, or I have 10 plaques that I have the design on it, and I haven't even burnt it.
Mm.
And I'll start on a different project and finish that instead.
So just letting yourself be drawn to the things that you feel good about doing in that moment, if you can.
Yeah.
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 Does that process remain the same for you when you're working on commissions, or do you feel, some artists I know feel extra pressure when they're working on something that's a commission for someone?
When I work on commissions, I try and give myself a really good deadline. So if they want it in 3 weeks, then I'll kind of plan it out. And it just depends on my energy. I may burn it and then paint it all in one day.
Mm.
And then the next day do my touch-ups and then add the finishing gloss. Or I may just burn it, wait a few days, paint it, wait a few more days, little touch-ups. So it's just really on my energy level. But I'll get it done before the due date.
Yeah. That sounds like you've created a real good structure for yourself there.
Yeah.
Not a procrastinator.
Eh, I'll finish it tomorrow, maybe.
Perhaps there's a difference between pacing yourself and really responding and investing in the things that you feel drawn and attracted to in that moment versus just putting it all off, just pushing it all off.
Yeah.
It's intention, isn't it? It's making a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. It's interesting. Intention makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can make a choice to just binge watch Netflix for an evening.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Versus when I actually,
Yeah.
and then I feel like crap the next day or whatever.
Exactly.
Where did you learn this, Eric?
I don't know. I think I just made it up. It's just made it so I don't get annoyed.
Annoyed with whom?
Myself, just overwhelming myself for not finishing work I should.
Yeah.
Just being able to let go and enjoy what I do.
Yeah. Which is such a beautiful thing. And again, anyone who's watching, folks watching this, and I'm sure they would agree with me that that's one of the things you bring to the creative, the social creative exchange that happens. Just a wonderful energy, and as dark as your humor can be sometimes.
Well, I'm dark with the right people. It's like comedy. You got to learn the room before you tell your jokes.
Yeah, read the room. Yeah, know your audience. Yeah. But even with that, there's a beautiful, extraordinary positivity that's there that just encourages everyone who's around you. And I'm sure everyone who knows you, who's watching or listening, would agree with me with that. Oh, there, I'm already seeing it. Absolutely agree. There you go. So are you aware of that? Maybe that's one area to explore before we wrap up the conversation. You can take compliments about your art. Does that extend to when people respond to you, the artist who creates them?
Sometimes there's belief to what people say, and then sometimes there's like disbelief. If it's a piece I'm not too happy with and someone's like, it's really good, I'm like, are you just saying that to be nice or do you mean it? So it just depends on my outlook towards the art piece itself too.
And perhaps because you have an expectation of where that piece is growing to, like especially if it's still a process, it's not what you envision in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though to someone else like myself, it might look perfect just the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And how is it accepting compliments about who you are as a human?
Uh, Depends. If I know I did something really well and I did it right and I get compliments, then it's easy. But if I'm like, I could have done that better actually,
Hmm.
then it's a little harder. Or
Yeah.
even I'll even point that right out if someone compliments me. I'm like, well, actually, I should have done this instead.
That's a classic thing that a lot of creatives that I know do. We're very good at pointing out the things that didn't work, even when no one asked for it.
Yeah,
But I appreciate that kind of honesty too. It's really always a pleasure to see into someone's process,
yeah.
to engage with people who are open about just what it's like to be that creator in the moment. I know it's,
And
oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say, but you kind of have to learn to when is it constructive and when is it destructive when you're talking to yourself that way too. Like I find a lot of the times I'll make mac and cheese, and I'm like, oh, I should have done this better. So then the next time I do that.
Yeah.
So that's more constructive than being like, oh, you really messed that up. How could you? But if you're like, oh, I messed this one thing up, but if I do this, it'll improve it.
Mm.
So being able to show how you can improve opposed to just lying on the part of you messed up.
Yeah. That's an interesting, yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I think it's having enough, being able to step back enough that you can question that negative voice or that inner critic voice when it becomes
Yeah.
loud. Was that something that came naturally to you, or do you like myself? I have to practice at that every single day, talking back to that and finding how to be constructive. What about you?
Uh, I think I eventually kind of just learned to twist it so it becomes a positive kind of thing.
Hmm.
It's like seeing a rainy day and I'm thinking, well, I'll have less trouble at work today. Or it's a nice sunny day, so I'll be like, okay, I can spray paint.
Yeah,
And just trying to find a positive.
yeah. You're extraordinary. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
And if you ever want to, I think you could write a book about mac and cheese and the wisdom of making mac and cheese. And I think it could be a hit. I
All
definitely.
right, I just need some vegan brands so I can make some for you one day.
Oh, totally. You can make lots of. And believe me, a lot of things. It's a hit and miss thing. You got to really work. Some of those. Especially if it's in the box. Yeah. I have some
Oh,
scratch, but the boxed ones. Yeah, you got to figure it out and work with it.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, I love making baked mac and cheese. So I do all the noodles, I grate my own cheese, I do everything that way. I've kind of stopped doing the box stuff.
Nice. Okay. Then I will definitely send you some recipes for vegan macaroni and cheese.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much for joining us. Are there any last shout outs or any last words of wisdom that you want to share with the community or any artists who might be out there looking at what you're doing and wondering how they might do the same thing?
Uh, Honestly, it's just stay positive and just be happy. Do what makes you happy.
And on days where it's hard or harder,
Well, if it's really hard, do little things that make you happy.
love it. Love it so much. Thank you so much, Eric. Okay. And send me those links for the places where your work is sold so I can share them with everybody. Okay.
Sure thing, I'll do that right after I hang up.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so
All
much.
right,
Well, have a wonderful.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you, you too.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
See you.
Wow. Always a pleasure to chat with folks like Eric. Thank you so much for joining us, Eric, today. So much wisdom there, so much positivity, so much delightful deliciousness on all fronts, including the mac. Maybe we should share some mac and cheese recipes. I didn't even think about that. Eric, let's share some macaroni and cheese recipes. We'll just start a community mac and cheese book. Why not? Vegan recipes included. Absolutely. But for folks who are out there, keep an eye out. I'm going to share those stores so you can find out where to purchase Eric's items, these beautiful works of art that he creates. And remember, Eric was also mentioning that you can order customized pieces from him as well. So you can contact him or message him at Bear Claw Crafts 1. Show him what you want, talk to him. He's open, as you learn, to finding new things to create and perhaps even new ways to create them. So definitely connect with Eric if you liked what you were hearing and what you were seeing today. And for future live stream chats, if you are a vendor out there who would like to connect with me, please reach out, let me know. I'm excited to shine a spotlight on a lot of our fabulous creative community members who may not have opportunities to share their work otherwise these days due to the pandemic. So please let me know if you're out there and you want to have a chat with me every Tuesday here on in, usually at 2 p.m. Today was special at 1 p.m. for Eric, but well, who knows? What's time these days? I don't know what it is. Thanks so much for joining me, folks, and I hope you enjoyed the chat as much as I did. Tomorrow, you can join me over on our Facebook page for a live stream art jam starting at 2 p.m. We'll be creating together for about an hour and a half. Every Wednesday afternoon we do that. We're back again after a couple of weeks off. But in the meantime, thanks so much for joining us. And until we can connect and create with one another in person, I look forward to connecting and creating with you right here, online, wherever it might be. Thanks so much. Thanks for being awesome. And have a great day. Bye.